Welcome, and thank you for tapping into some Untapped Keg. I am one of your hosts, RJ Zimmerman, here with my good friend, Monte Ball. How you doing, big guy?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I'm looking forward to our guests today. RJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I thought my legs would be a little bit more sore today, but I'm doing all right.
A good old bike ride.
We did a 5 mile bike ride. Haven't ridden bikes in like 4 years, so it's good. Pulling about 100 pounds of kids behind me, but it worked out pretty good. So
absolutely,
we are very excited to have a guest here with us, the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today magazine, Rob Hannley. Woo! Yeah, what? Professional applause track. How are you doing,
What's
sir?
up, Rob?
Guys?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah.
It's been a long time since we've connected. I mean, we talked back for the first time when you guys reached out to me to be on the cover. Was that back in 2018? I think it was.
Yeah, it was. That's right.
Well, so what is new since then, man? How has everything been going?
All cylinders, man. There's all kinds of, new stuff, new features, Unfortunately, we have an audience, is what I tell people, meaning that there's a need for it. And so when I'm thinking about the stuff in recovery, it's not like, oh yeah, we're going, we're doing this and we're doing that because, if we could, we would like to have no audience, no need, no reason to discuss the kind of things that we discuss in recovery today. But we do. We got to accept the things we can't change. And so every single issue, since your issue has been like what your issue was, just excellence, excellence, excellence. We've had a lot of really also, amazing covers like you since then. And just great things happening overall for, the audience is growing and things like that. So
yeah, let's take appreciate you sharing that. Let's pull back here for a second and let's get to know Rob Hannley and Recovery Today magazine. So what got you started on this, man? What inspired you to get this going? Because it's a wonderful magazine.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's really, for me personally, and I think a lot of our contributors, it's therapy. And then I like to think that for our readers, it's kind of therapy too. One of the things I enjoy the most about Recovery Today magazine or any kind of discussion like this or anything to do with recovery is the cornerstone is truth and authenticity. So people, I'll ask questions to people sometime and they'll start to answer and then they'll say, you want to know the real truth? So I like people want to come clean, excuse the it works. They want to be truthful and just to lay it all out. So I love that. It's been therapy. But the way that it started for me really is I've been a digital entrepreneur and a digital marketer. I've marketed on the internet since there's been an internet. And I just like to, market and tell people about cool things. If I get paid, it's probably even better. And if I don't, I'd still tell you the great restaurant or cure to whatever it was that ails you type of a thing. And it's kind of the core part of who I am. And after the last great recession around 2012 or 2013, things were actually really not so good for me. I had done really, really well in the past and made what most people would consider, pretty great money. And I lived a pretty good lifestyle. But, the tail end of the recession really caught me in a lot of ways, financially, mentally, everything. And I give him credit every single time I possibly can because my lifesaver was my brother, Greg. And he had owned at that time either 9, it grew to as much as 13 different drug rehabs. Again, we wish that we didn't have a need for this, but we do. And he's a pretty extraordinary person, probably the most that I've ever met, actually. And so anyhow, he asked me if I would make a website for him and write the copy for it, because I'm a copywriter, for a new rehab that he was opening. So I gave it my all. I gave it my best. I was going to create something that was really extraordinary, and he paid me for it. And he knew that I kind of had a need, and I also needed a direction or a channel to kind of move into. And I'm sober, by the way, now. I don't even know how many years it is. It was the spring of, I don't have like a sobriety date. It was like the spring of 1994. I kind of think it's February or March or somewhere around there. And so that's 26 or 27 years or something
Almost
like
30.
that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
And so, and then, obviously my brother owning a rehab, as most people go into it, they had some kind of a problem himself and the last 8 kids. My older, one of my sisters was a heroin addict when I was a little kid. When I was about 7 or 8 years old. It was back like in the 70s. And so I've had experience with all of the chaos of a heroin addict. And then, she continued in addiction on and off throughout her life. And so my brother, probably myself, well, certainly. And as you can see, I'm chatty. I'm admittedly ADD, and so all of these kind of things. Everybody is.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
We like to say that there's a squirrel over there. We're gonna go chase it.
Yeah. Well, I could, as kind of like a copywriter and having my own experiences, and then talking to my brother a lot, who was, trying to help me out and give me something to do and a way to get started to do something pretty good. And he was making a lot of money at the time too. I had this idea about creating a magazine. And originally the whole idea was he was spending jillions of dollars in Google to get people to come to his website, his rehab website. And, people are going to look through, see, I'm an internet marketer. They're going to look through and then they're going to be, or somebody interrupts them and then they're gone. They just kind of bounce off. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you really need to have like an opt-in list, man. Like you should be making a list, but how can you do that in 2013, somewhere around there? Like you can't say sign up for a rehab newsletter. Who wants to do that? That's stupid. So I was exposed to kind of the whole idea of launching a digital magazine. And so I thought about it and I was like, wow, that would be really cool. Your rehab, it's called SOBA. You could have a digital magazine and it would be something different, like we're a place that's got a magazine. So it would create authority and interest. So anyhow, for the first 4 or 5 issues, Recovery Today was actually a page or a couple of pages that was hosted on, inside of his drug rehab website. Yep. And so that's kind of how it started. But then immediately it took off, and we branded it a different name, and it just immediately took off where people are like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. So then we moved it to its own thing. And then from then on, for a long time, it was a magazine that was really almost entirely ad-free, or it was in the beginning completely ad-free, except for at the very end we would have an ad for his place. That was how it was. So it was fully supported by my brother. And since then, a couple of years ago, he sold it all off. And so since then, and along the way, occasionally we would have different places or different things that I didn't feel like would conflict with his place, and we would include them as ads or articles or things like that. And since then, it's just been kind of going and going and going. But that's the whole nitty gritty. Do you want to know the real truth of how Recovery Today started? As it started with my brother, subsidizing it to get it going and off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's very important for our listeners, our viewers as well, to understand how this thing got started, because you have had some remarkable folks on there. You've had some people who are in the limelight a lot, on the front cover. You've had some wonderful conversations. I've listened to a good amount of them. And my question to you is, what is the best part about it? What is the best part to you?
God, man.
About this?
Honestly, the best part, bro, is this right here. Even as we're talking right now, my brain cells are going off. My purpose in my life is going off. One time I took a whole inventory of who I was, and what do you value? Punctuality, and all of these different things. And it was like 100 things. I narrowed it all the way down to I love to learn and I love to share. Okay, so it fits kind of the ADD thing. Like, oh, I got to tell you, if you ever talk to somebody with ADD, you know you're talking to them because they can't wait to tell you something too, right?
Yep.
So I love connecting the dots. Oh my God, like, have you seen this? Or, oh, check this out, you know? So I try to dial it back as much as I can. But the part that I love the most about it is because, and I love to write, and I'm a pretty damn good writer, I'm told, I'll say. But I love to write and express myself that way. And then the people that we came on, I had this vision for Recovery Today. It's not a magazine for therapists. It's not some shit that I'm trying to impress other therapists or some fucking thing like that. Excuse me, but I want to just go right into the viscerality of dropping an F-bomb. But
You're fine.
But I didn't want something that was going to be for pretentious, whatever. I wanted real communication for a regular type of a person to go, yeah, like that's me, you know? Yeah. Yeah. And so this authenticity of something that is real, but it's professional and it's well done, that would resonate with people. It kind of created, people started being like immediately, they're like, this is like amazing. Like there's nothing that's out there anywhere like this. This is so amazing. And it was on and on and on like that. So the thing that I get the most out of it is because of what we have done, I've had access to some really amazing people. Yeah. As you would already, I'm sure, you know, through your podcasting. And so I get to have a conversation where I can learn something, I can share something, I can say, oh, what about this, with some of the most incredible people that are out there, you know, like how would I ever, in fact, it's interesting. You of all people, Monty, I was telling my brother, you were one of the first, I think you were the second NFL player that we interviewed. And I was like, so I told my brother, I got another interview. I got this guy so cool. And he's a running back for the Denver Broncos. He's got all this kind of stuff. Right. And he said to me, he goes, in a nice way, he goes, you know, you would never have access to these people if it wasn't for the magazine. Now, he wasn't looking for me to say thank you or something like that, because I'd really just run with this. Yeah. But what he was saying is the platform of the magazine allowed me to connect with someone like you, to have a conversation. It's one thing to have a conversation with your neighbor and they know lots of things and everybody's extraordinary, but like to be able to, even when my son called right before the interview, it's like, hey, say hi to Monty Ball, right? Who is the running back for the Denver Broncos. And I get to be friends, you know, we text and whatnot like that. So that's my favorite part, is creating relationships with really cool, extraordinary people on a human level. That's what I really would sum it up to be.
My goodness, man, you're way too kind. You're way too kind.
Oh, no, straight up, dude.
I appreciate that, though.
I love the story behind it, because honestly, that's part of the reason we started the podcast. Was the same thing. Like, we wanted to show that everyday people, just, you know, we still have our struggles. We sometimes have our, you know, we have our good days. It's everything, right? But like, our sobriety doesn't affect everything in our life, but everything affects our sobriety. So that's kind of the way that we took it a little bit. But I've kind of moved away from that a little bit. But being able to talk with people like you who had this idea that like is right. There really isn't a lot out there where you are able to talk to regular people and be like, you're not alone. Like that feeling, especially when you're first starting out, that there's regular people out there, or I mean, superstars like Monte Ball, like, you know, I saw you had Kurt Angle, you had so many rock stars. You've had athletes of all shapes and sizes. You've had rock stars. I mean, you had the guy who wrote Rainbow Connection. Like, everybody knows Rainbow Connection. You had him on, like, that is, or in your magazine. That's amazing. So to start something like that and build it up to what you have, that's extraordinary. And you deserve a lot of credit for that. And being able to talk to normal people and connect with them that's just, and I say normal, right? But like everyday people, it's amazing. It's really cool. And, you know, really appreciate you doing that. That's awesome. I really appreciate your story. So
it's validating too. Like everybody is looking for in life. I love personal development.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes, I think it was I think Dale Carnegie was writing about Abraham Lincoln, I think is what it was. And he said, everybody is looking for appreciation. They're all looking really husband and wife. What do you find? It comes down to you don't appreciate me. So the neat thing is to have smart people like you and cool people go, man, I love what you do. I love your work. I love that is really, we've all experienced success in some kind of capacity in our lives. And so it's validating, it's gratifying to hear things like that. Thank you.
Yeah. And RJ, you made such a great point, and same for you, Rob. I think it's important creating that platform for folks just to be vulnerable. I mean, I think it's very, very important for the movement of mental health. And so, Rob, it's time that we, you had the opportunity, when we first talked and you were shooting a bunch of questions at me. It's now my turn. It is now my turn. So
he's been waiting for this. Now we're at the why we have you on. This is it.
Yeah. The thing that I gotta warn you about though is because I talk so much, you're only gonna be able to get like 5% of your questions out, bro. Because every one of them is gonna be a dissertation.
Dude, hey, listen, the floor is yours. This is the reason why we brought you on. The floor is yours.
This is the Rob Hannley podcast. This isn't the
indeed. So you shared that you got sober back in spring of 94, correct?
Yeah.
And is it obviously please share what you're comfortable with sharing.
Sure.
And so the question is, what was, your drug of choice? Ours was alcohol. Jay and I both. And also what was that turning point for you where it was like, you know what, I gotta change. I can't keep going down this path.
You're going to be disappointed. And for a long time, I really didn't share my personal sobriety story in the magazine. And understand that we're a magazine, really, actually, the very definition of when we were thinking, well, what is Recovery Today magazine? I wanted to think, well, I'll just tell you what it is. Recovery Today magazine is a magazine of hope, okay? And I was thinking about this a minute ago when you're talking. I'm like, I want to interject this in because it's cornerstone before I get to what my story is. But I was trying to think about what is it that you need. And when I created Recovery Today magazine, I was feeling very hopeless. Okay. And I realized in order to have any kind of change possible in your life, you have to first have, it's not discipline, it's not motivation, it's not anything. It's actually the thought like, shit, things can be different. Like I really believe that they can be different. You have to have hope. Okay. And hope actually comes from hearing other people's stories and going, that guy's way more jacked up than I am. So that's kind of that part. So Recovery Today is a magazine of recovery. We have a large audience. I would say probably most are traditional 12-step, have a sponsor, go to meetings, treatment center, therapy. But there's also another huge part of the audience, which is not 12-step. Holistic, or it's yoga or whatever it is. I've even started to kind of get into a little bit our whole thing is I don't care how you got sober. I've had people, a few covers, two, three covers that they were sober, full blown addicts, came to sobriety through transformation to Christ. Okay. I'm a Christian. We're not a Christian magazine. Okay. A lot of times I'll write in, or if the opportunity presents itself, I tell people I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. But I don't care how people get sober as long as they are sober. So for me, it's really a nothing burger. The way that I got sober was kind of as an experiment, I guess I would say. And so way back in 93 and 94, I got really into personal development. I started to read a lot of books by all of the greatest people. Napoleon, the personal development movement, Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie, every single one. I just became voracious. And actually then that was also when I became a Christian too. I was raised in a kind of a very traditional type of go to church a little bit type of a background, but I didn't have a personal relationship with Christ. I started reading my Bible. Okay. Like back in like 93, 94. So as I was kind of going through stuff and I was changing my whole life, kind of personal development wise. Live each day as though it's your last day. Plan as though it's 1,000 years. Treat everybody that you're meeting as though it's their last day. What would you really do? Like, I wanted to have a life that would really count, right? So I was making all these changes in my life, and I got really busy with what I was doing. I'm an entrepreneur, so I was working a job and had businesses and things like that. And honestly, having even a couple of beers slowed me down too much. And I was hanging around a lot of people that they didn't drink, they didn't party, they didn't do anything. And I just started to not have so much time. And one day, my roommate, and I had 3 or 4 roommates, and they were waiters and smoked weed and drank and had wine and stuff like that. He said to me, I was in the kitchen, we were having dinner, and he goes, "Hey, would you get me a glass of wine and, get yourself a glass of wine?" And then he goes, "Matter of fact, I hadn't seen you drink in like a couple of months, man. Like, do you even still drink? Did you quit drinking?" And I thought about it for a minute, and I had all these habits. I'd started reading, I'd started praying, I'd started reading, I had all these new habits that I was doing. And I thought to myself, yeah, I actually did. I think I did quit drinking. And so it's a huge nothing burger. Okay. And in terms of like what I did, I grew up in 1965. I've done everything pretty much, at least for that time period, except for I never did opiates. I never injected anything, did coke, shrooms, acid, sold all of them too for my dorm room, as a matter of fact. I love to drink. I love to go out and get wasted. But in terms of how I changed, it started out like as an experiment. And so what now they call it sober curious. And so I started to purposely make it not a big deal. Okay. So instead of saying, I don't drink, I stopped drinking. I am this time I'm not going to, and I had wrecked cars. I'd done everything that everybody had been in jail, like in the drunk tank. But instead I started to create this persona that it's a nothing. I'm a non-drinker. I'm a guy that doesn't drink. I'm the guy when I go out, occasionally I wouldn't go to bars with my friends for a long time, people that I might have worked with. But when I did, it was like, no, I'm just soda water. I made it not a big deal. I didn't tell people I quit drinking. It was just something that I just kind of snuck out, and it's like, no, I'm good. Make a little joke. I'm the designated driver. I intentionally made it nothing. And then it was kind of like an experiment that I was going to see, can you really change a significant habit for your whole life and have it last for your whole life? So now, honestly, I don't think about drinking at all. I mean, I like to smoke a cigar or something like that. I drink non-alcohol beers, but it's not even anything at all for me at all.
That's incredible. That speaks volumes about your commitment, who you are as a person, wanting to look within, self-reflect, and do it for yourself. Don't have the microphone or anything like that. And when you first started and letting everybody know it, because when you mentioned that, it reminded me a lot of RJ, actually. RJ has shared plenty of times. I don't want to speak for you, RJ. I know that that's kind of the same approach that you had, where you just decided to stop and didn't really make it a big deal.
Well, something that I talk about is my dad has also been sober for about 30 years, I would say. He's probably, I'm 30. How old am I again? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, he's approaching 30 years. And so I grew up around a sober parent, and he also drinks NA beer, but I was exposed to, it's okay to be sober. Like, it's a normal part of life if that's what you choose. And I was having an issue binge drinking. Every time I would have probably 2 beers or 2 alcoholic drinks, I would then go off, drink it all, and not remember anything. And so I just decided that if I wanted to have a family, which was kind of the next step in my life, and I wanted to have a career, I'm a lineman for a local utility company, so I work on high voltage power lines. I have to have a CDL, so I couldn't get caught drunk driving. That would just ruin my career. So I just decided that I was going to make the decision. And I told my wife that, hey, I'm not going to drink. It's time for me to stop. It's just time. And that's kind of what I did. I didn't just oh, do you drink? No, kind of the same thing. Like, I'm not going to drink anymore. But yeah, that it worked for me. But part of the reason that it worked for me, like my dad and I never had conversations about why he quit drinking. We talked about areas that he got into with problems with. That's like why he doesn't drink anymore. But we never really talked about any of it. But because I was exposed to it for so long, and that was a normal part of my life, that made it easier for me to just say, I'm not going to drink anymore. So
yeah.
I don't necessarily, and this is the thing, that's probably why I laid the groundwork about recovery today, and it's 12-step and non-12-step, and they're even doing things, there's, medical detox, I think that there's going to be things that are coming out, by the way. I'm not advocating, okay, I'm just saying there's things that are coming out, we look at everything. I think that there's going to be, what do they call it, plant medicine, maybe it's like a microdoses of shrooms or whatever. I think that there's going to be all kinds because there's such a need. Yep. And again, I don't care. I really don't. If you can get sober, or you can get to a spot where not only do you go, no, I'm good, but there's tangible, check the box, work a job, support yourself, check. Yeah. Not doing crazy ass things necessarily that would at least that would get you into trouble, check. You have other people that, like, society would say, well, these are normal people. Like maybe you're married, that's a good sign that like you got somebody else that's actually willing to live with you. That's kind of normal too. And you got family. They're like, yeah, Rob, RJ, Monty, they're good guys, man. Like they're a realtor, they're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker. They show up on time. They're cool. You got normal people around you that say, I don't care how you get there. I don't advocate that people say, oh, this is the way. Like just start saying that you're not. That's just what worked for me. I just made it nothing, like no energy.
I like that. I really like that, Rob. And again, that speaks volumes about, again, you wanting to self-reflect, look within, read, figure it out for yourself. We can most definitely see that today still. And I think that's important for us to hear, myself, of course, our listeners, that you have to start within, look within, and do it for yourself.
It's the most selfless, selfish decision that you can make.
Oh, I love that, dude. I got to rip that off. That's good.
We've been saying it for a while, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, even when you're talking about mental health, like it can just extend to mental health. The most selfless, selfish decision you can make to be your best version of you. That's kind of what it is, right? Like, you're going to work on yourself to be better to everybody else around you. And it could include sobriety. It could include going to therapy, could include medication, whatever it is that you need. But that's really where it starts. Mons makes a really good point.
I think it's important too. And
we got one question down, and that was like 10 minutes, man.
It's okay. No.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. I think honestly, what you're answering is what people want to hear, which is, how did you get this started? How did you start on this journey yourself? How did Recovery Today magazine get started? And what have you gained most since then? And I think you've really covered a lot right there, which is important. We really appreciate that. RJ, you got something for him? So
when you started approaching people about Recovery Today magazine, I mean, I commented about how this is kind of something that wasn't there. And you started the movement of destigmatizing recovery, even though that may not have been what you set out to do, but just talking about it out loud starts that. So when you started approaching big name people to kind of come out with their story, what obstacles or hurdles did you find in your way?
Oh, what a good question. First of all, I would say just from kind of like basic success stuff is I think that everybody wants to tell their story. Okay. When there's a picture of you and when there's a picture of a whole bunch of people and you're in that picture, who is the first person that you always look for? You look for yourself, right? Yeah. So we're all created, I believe, for significance, right? And we all have a story. And so everybody wants to tell their story. And I think even more so when you have overcome great adversity, life-threatening type of things, and then you've overcome that. You've been tried by fire. I think you're innately we're wired to give confidence to other people and to say you can do it too. The whole hope message. So number one, I already knew that most people would want to tell their story. Or at least that was what was in my mind. Maybe I was wrong, but I thought they would want to tell their story if it was done in the right way. Secondly, kind of messaging in a right kind of a thing. I don't remember exactly how Monty and I had connected. A lot of times I'll send a message to people. Hi, Joe, Fred, whatever it is, my name's Rob Hannley. I'm the editor in chief, and I usually tell them I'm a big fan. I like you, man. I like your stuff. It's really cool, and to be able to kind of craft a message that is real and authentic, but is kind of gets to like, I'd like to share your story with people, and then sometimes I got to message them multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you, one of the fun ones was Daryl Strawberry. Okay, and
Awesome.
This is the best one, man. So. I love Daryl Strawberry and just love Daryl Strawberry. He's an incredible person. And he was an incredible athlete and superstar, and he's even a more incredible human being.
Yep.
And so I started to follow him on Instagram, where I saw something like that. And Daryl has become like a Christian evangelist. He speaks at a lot of churches. He has a couple of rehabs. I loved his messages. He's very outspoken about his faith. And so I started to follow him, and I was liking and commenting and stuff like that authentically. And then I started to message him a little bit. I'd love to tell your story. My name is, and here's my phone number and stuff like that. And one day he calls me up, or one day I'm drinking my coffee. It's about 8 a.m. and sitting in my underwear, just going to check my email, and I get this phone call. It's from I don't recognize. So, hey, this is Rob. Hey, Rob. This is Daryl Strawberry, and I just wanted to tell you, I love Recovery Today magazine. How you doing today? And I was drinking my coffee, and I'm like, took another sip, and I go, well, Daryl, I'm sitting here checking my email and having my morning coffee. I just got a call from Daryl Strawberry, so like I'm pretty good, man. We hit it off. I'm chatty, and I wanted to keep. So we talked for about 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I will tell you, actually, in the first call, I said the same thing to Monty. I don't say it to everybody. It's not like it's a gimmick or anything like that. But we really hit it off, man. We were cutting up and laughing. He goes, "Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to do an interview with you guys, and my schedule and yada yada." And I said, and we were just hitting it off, man. I'm like on so many different cylinders. And I go, "Hey, I got to tell you something." I was probably caffeinated at the time because I get most animated and caffeinated, right? And I go, Daryl, I got to tell you something, man. He goes, well, okay, yeah, shoot. And I go, hey, man, we're going to be friends, okay? Like, I'm just going to tell you, I'm putting you on notice. Like, we're going to be friends. I said the same thing. I probably was maybe after, before, or something like that. I go, dude, I want to tell you right now, I'm going to warn it. We're going to be friends. And he goes, okay, yeah, like we're friends. We can be friends. Yeah, that sounds good. And I go, no. I go, you're Daryl Strawberry, and you have like all kinds of superstars, multimillionaires. You probably got billionaires like our friends that are your friends, right? And I go, so so it's not me saying that you're my friend, but like you're going to tell people that I'm your friend too. Like we're going to actually be real friends, So, son of a gun, man. So he did the interview. He talked. We did all the stuff, and then like it came around to Thanksgiving. I forgot what and I got a text message from Daryl Strawberry. I screenshot them all, man. Hey, Rob, I just want to. It's me and 300 other people. He sends a text message to, but I screenshot that, man. Hey, Daryl, thanks so much for then Christmas, and so now I text him at Christmas and Thanksgiving and screenshot and send it to my friends. Look at Daryl Strawberry. So. That's kind of how all that's happened. So how did I do it? I just started to authentically kind of appreciate people, and I followed them and liked them. And then, a lot of people, I won't give names, but there's like that. It's like, dude, I've messaged you like 20 times, man. You can't keep doing it over and over, but there's a balance between persistency, being a freak, being an asshole, or something like that type of a thing. And I'm thinking of one particular person in mind right now. It's like, no, you're going to be on the cover, man. Like you're a little bit outspoken about recovery. And so, no, you're going to be on Recovery Today, man. That's just how it is. And I will continue to follow up until they, say, okay, let's do something.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's important, the persistence, and that there is a fine line with that for sure. It's funny that you brought that up because I remember now thinking back to when we first talked and you sent that text to me saying that we're going to be friends. And then we just started talking about some football.
Yeah.
Started talking about football.
I'm a football fan, man.
Seahawks,
it's not
right?
just about recovery. Like we hit it off on so many things. And I don't tell that to everybody. I don't say that to everybody. I've said it to a few. Of course, one of my big lines was I would say, if we were neighbors, I might even said it to you, dude, if we were neighbors, we would barbecue together, man. I like you.
Yeah, I agree. So the Seahawks, right? That's your team.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're a Seahawks fan?
I love
we got a Packers fan right here.
Yeah. I don't even know if Rodgers is he the QB next year. I don't know. There's always some kind of drama there.
Is there, or is it just media made up? Who knows?
I don't know. Aaron Rodgers a little bit off with him, man. I mean, I don't know what
the greatest QBs though. They're almost all of them.
Russell Wilson is the most boring person ever because
he said that he wanted out this summer too.
What?
He said he wanted out this summer too.
Yeah, but they don't fire coaches because of Russell Wilson and people. So
right.
I'm just saying.
What Mike McCarthy did with the Cowboys. Do you really think that he shouldn't have been fired? Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Since he's been gone, look at what the Packers have done.
Yeah.
Rob, that's some pretty cool stuff. I always love stirring the pot. Knowing that obviously you're a Seahawks fan. He's a Packers fan. I love bringing up that NFC Championship game.
I was there, 50-yard line.
Yes. Let's go, Seahawks.
So, I'm kidding. In like the second quarter of that game, I'm still like nervous and pacing around the house. And Mons is like, dude, you guys won this game. Why are you pacing? I'm like, obviously you've never seen a Packers game. And then they come back. I didn't even say a word. I just walked away after that overtime play.
I think they were down like 24 points or something crazy.
Yeah, it was like 20.
3 minutes left. They couldn't do anything for the whole game. We were there. I had a good friend of mine from Green Bay, big fan, and she flew out to Seattle, stayed with us, and bought us tickets. We were like 10 rows up on the 50-yard line, $2,000 tickets, actually. And right behind the Packers bench, as a matter of fact. And she's really cool. And when it got pretty much to the end of the fourth quarter, and she's like, guys, authentically, she's like, I'm sorry, like it wasn't better, game. And my wife, though, like it just has this innate faith. And so anyhow, that was the greatest ever, man.
Yeah.
That was a great
I purposely like to poke the bear. I mean, I'm a Broncos fan, and we haven't done anything since 2015 season, but the Packers, they always get right there, and they just
always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
So Rob, what is your today? Okay, in the year 2021, what does Rob do on his free time outside of being the editor-in-chief? What keeps you going, man?
Boring, dude. I'm boring. I'm really boring. It's not like I say, I like to get out and water ski or I camp or I mountain climb. I honestly, I'm super boring, man. I'm not on a softball team or playing baseball, or golfing or anything like that. I'm usually hanging out with my wife. My son that you met a minute ago now lives in Georgia. My daughter is in 12th grade. And, the last couple of years with the pandemic, everybody's kind of homebound, but that's kind of how I mostly am. I enjoy entrepreneurial type of stuff as I'm ADD. So I like, I do some day trading. I like crypto type of stuff. I get into different things I can sell and market and stuff like that. I'm always my mind's kind of going like that. And, other than that, the boring side is, it's takeout and Netflix and whatnot like that with the wife, man. And that's about it.
So we, on the show, we like to talk about, what, RJ and I do to continuously craft like to look at our recovery as it's something that we're constantly working at and learning more about ourselves. Is there anything that you do that other than the magazine, I'm sure, but that really helps you to stay on track?
Yeah. And it comes back around, not to be all Christian or drop bombs, but I think one of the greatest success book of all times, I think, is the Bible, specifically in the New Testament. Yeah. And there's something that Paul had said, to paraphrase a little bit, and he's like, kind of like saying, I don't do the things I know I should do, and I do the things I know I shouldn't do, right? So I have sprinkled breadcrumbs for myself to say, I know that this works for me. I know this works. Yet I find it hard sometimes to do, and that is like to get up and to pray in the morning. So I know in recovery, we talk a lot about meditation. Personally, I think it's the same thing, whether your mind is quiet or the central core around a prayer. It's never begging or pleading. It's actually always from a place of appreciation. Again, I think kind of like us, we're like God. So it's mostly the cornerstone of prayer is thank you. Thank you for the things that have been done. Thank you for the things that will be done. Thank you for the things that I'm wanting for my, all these kind of stuff. So I don't pray enough, but I know when I go through periods, and I don't mean like just sitting down before grace, or, before you're going to eat or before you go to bed. I mean, like in the morning, getting up, spending 10 or 15 minutes in prayer, right? And then also in reading something of personal development that is inspirational, that is going to cause you to do something. So those are two things. The next thing, which was very difficult in the pandemic, is something that's going to make me sweat, that my medication, and maybe I probably should have started there, but my medication is endorphins. And so I go in, I never play basketball. I go in and I shoot because I always tell people I'm too old and too fat to play. I get too winded. But I really enjoy, and I've gotten pretty decent where I can hit some threes and stuff like that. When the ball swishes through the net, it lights off endorphins. And as an athlete, the kind of the satisfaction that you get from being able to control your body and do different things, and you're nimble, So I love to go in. I love to shoot baskets. I'll go and lift weights, a little bit here and there, stretch. I've been thinking in my mind I should get into yoga because I'm older. I want my joints and things like that to work, good. But sweating, I do kickboxing. I like that. Actually, that's kind of a cool thing. I do a thing called 9 rounds. I like that a lot. Okay. Yeah.
I would be dead. Kickboxing, I heard, is very
well. You're not fighting people. It's like they got housewives in there and whatnot, and it's fat guys like me, and but it's fun. You do get a lot of 1, 2, 1, 2, jab, hook, cross, and you're hitting somebody with pads. It's really cool. It's very taxing though.
I bet. Now that you just mentioned that, and you just right there putting your hands up. So I've had friends who've done it, and they say they love it. And I've never been drawn to it, but I think I can see now how that would be rewarding. Obviously it's a stress reliever for one. You get to beat something up that's it's legal, and two, you get to sweat, and you're losing weight. So I guess it's
really time efficient too. That workout, one that I do, is only a half an hour. You go from like jumping rope for 3 minutes to this to this to this. It's what's called 9 rounds to give them a free plug. But the funnest part is where the other person's got the pads on, and they'll be like, the 1 means jab, 2 is cross. So 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Hook, cross. So it's just, and at first you can't do it, and then it's weird after you start. Have you been doing it for a while? Then it's like, it's like, wow, how do I even know that? Duck, this, that, and the other. It's cool. I like football stuff.
That'd be sweet. Yeah. That'd be sweet.
So we talked about it a little bit. So who was your white whale that you landed on the front of Recovery today?
God, there's so many.
There are. I was looking through all of them, and
there's so many. And by the way, when it says when it's me, and when you say me or that I, it's not me or I at all. This is not the Rob show, by the way. I probably should have said that in the very beginning. Recovery today isn't about me. In fact, I sat in the behind the scenes for a long, long time until finally somebody said, you should come out and kind of tell a little bit of who you are. That was where the letter from the editor was born. but I had all of these great people that were part. Some have come and some have gone, and they would bring different cool people. Okay, they all want to help. That's what recovery is about. So the greatest covers, whether it was somebody that I had pursued or somebody else I was with, was, I would say, Russell Brand was pretty big. There's a gal that was my friend, Sherry, pursued him relentlessly. Jamie Lee Curtis is another one from Sherry. To give her a shout out if she would ever see this. She pursued Jamie Lee Curtis to the ends of the earth. Sugar Ray Leonard, Daryl Strawberry. I'm trying to think. There's so many great, big, kick-ass covers that we have had. I'm already forgetting, a whole ton of them. This month, by the way, a shout out for kind of this month I thought is really cool is Miss America. I mean, I got to interview Miss America. So she'll be our next cover. The next one, I guess, to give people a little sneaky peek is actor and comic Tom Arnold. And
yeah.
So some really cool covers. My friend Colin Scummy Morrison was a cover long time ago, and he's a super crazy motocross jumper, 300 feet high, and he came on board with us, and he brought Wee Man, and he brought God, I'm trying to think. And then we had Nikki Sixx. God, how can you forget Nikki Sixx and Dave Navarro and Justin Furstenfeld from Blue October Band. We've had so many rock stars are very willing. They just don't give a shit,
I think that's the beauty about it though too, is, hey, this is it. This is the rawness of it. You're gonna like it or not. But Rob, I think it's important, man. I think that's awesome that this thing has come about, Recovery Today magazine, because many times in my life when I go about sharing my story, many people always ask me, how do I relate?
You're powerful.
I appreciate that, but they're like, how do I relate to somebody? This is some people ask me how to relate to somebody who's played in the NFL, Super Bowl, etc. And I always try to make my story relatable because we all put our pants on the same exact way. And I think that's the importance about Recovery Today magazine. You got Russell Brand, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, one of the greatest actresses ever, making her story relatable. So the average folk, and I hate saying average, but you understand what I'm saying. The person who's just working 9 to 5, corporate America, which is an awesome thing, can look at her story, listen to her story, and understand that we are all the same. I think that's very important. I think that's very, very important. And I think that brings a lot of validity to just how impactful the recovery community is. And just there's zero judgment. So I didn't have a question for you right there. I just wanted to throw that out there. And
fully agree, man. Fully agree. It's all about, it's all about your story.
Yeah.
I always look for the most famous person that we have kind of on hand at that time or whatever, who's the, cover. And I really feel like we're all the same. I've had people look to differentiate before and say, well, you should maybe have a segment for this or a segment for that, and to start to kind of break people up into different groups and things like that. That we, and I think to myself, I don't give a shit about any of that, man. I don't care. This. I don't care. It's not, like I said, it's not a Christian recovery magazine. My story, I'm Christian. I will say, by the way, if somebody's like a devil worshiper, they'll never fucking be in Recovery Today, ever, ever, ever. But if you're anything else, sorry, I'm prejudiced against devil worshipers, Anything else, I don't care, man. I really do not care what anything, because we're a recovery magazine. So, and we're all, the point that you made, we're all the same, and we're all trying to figure shit out. And you're never, life is like the gym. You can't say like, oh yeah, I worked my ass off way back. And then I'm in great shape for the rest of my life. Sometimes you're depressed. Sometimes you're on the top of the mountain. Sometimes things are going good. It's all just kind of the journey, man. And so everybody, whoever the most famous person, the least famous person, everybody's got their story and everybody's going through the same shit. Nobody's different.
That's so true.
Very true.
I mean, that's awesome, man. And it's very refreshing. It really is, just to get somebody at your level who's speaking to other folks who are in the limelight to pretty much regurgitate the messages that we share with our listeners, where we are all just trying to figure it out.
The thing that's odd for me though, bro, the thing that's odd is I was thinking about this before the interview today.
Yeah.
And I've only been interviewed a few times, 3, 4, 5 times.
Oh, wow.
And the thing is, and I know that it's authentic and that it's appreciative and respectful and stuff like that. And I know also we're doing a show, and so you don't want to have some, schlub, whatever it would be that's on. But I find it's really interesting, kind of this a little bit of like fame myself, I would say. And so like when you say somebody of your notoriety, I think like, I'm not notoriable at all. Like, ask my wife. Like, I'm not at all notoriable. Like, I'm not that. And, but I have to accept a little bit of that, because a lot of times people are like, oh my God, like I had somebody that's badass. She's going to be in this interview, has authored a whole bunch of books and stuff like that. And I think a little bit to myself, sometimes maybe they're bullshitting me, but like, she was like all enamored, like, like, wow, I'm talking to the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today, and I'm thinking like, I'm just a dude, like I'm just somebody I'm pretty jacked up. I give myself a lot of margin by saying whatever I can. I'm kind of crazy. I say stupid shit. I change my mind a lot, I find a lot of freedom and latitude of being in recovery, and it's depression and it's this and it's ADD. It's all this kind of stuff. I have this freedom and margin because I can honestly just say, I'm pretty crazy. In fact, I think everybody's crazy. The ones that are the most crazy are the ones that think that they're not crazy, by the
way.
Great point.
A little bit.
Right. Great point. But I guess it's just, Rob, I love that you shared that, but I guess when I say it, you have, I'm sure, and again, I'm not trying to get into your personal business, but the financial means.
Yeah, I don't care. It's fine.
You have the financial means or what have you to probably ride off in the sunset, but you choose to do this. I think that's what people love. And I think that's where the excitement comes when we speak to you, when people speak to you. It's like, you don't have to do this, but you are.
So I do have to do it, though. I do have to do it. And for several reasons, I have to do it. One is I like it. I like it. It's therapy, okay, for me. And I enjoy it. But authentically, I can say, at least today, like if I were to win Powerball or something like that, I would still do this. Because how else do I get to talk to Monty Ball? How else do I get to talk to Emilio Rivera, my friend? And a lot of these guys, Emilio was another guy. I'll give him a shout out from the Mayans TV show. Love Emilio. He and I were like you, dude. We hit it off. It was just super authentic. He's just an amazing person. And like, I have his number. Sometimes with my friends, I'm like, yeah, you want to see who I got? I'll do a search of my contacts for Recovery Today. Recovery Today. And they're like, no shit. And so it comes back around to like that I'm just kind of me. But I do it for therapy. And then I also do it on like, I had a friend of mine, another shout out. Her name's Donna Spear. She was a cover of mine. And she's been a confidant and a friend and a counselor a lot of times. She's got 35 years of sobriety. Wow. And one time she messaged me, and she's hooked me up big time too with people. And she sent me an email or a text. And you know how you tell your dog when it craps in the house, look at what you've done? Who did that? Right? So she sent me this text with a screenshot, or it was a link. And it was a link to Google, and the Google link was Recovery Today magazine, and then it was images, okay? Recovery Today magazine, and then she hit images. And she sent me that link, and she said, look at what you've done. And I take it like a dog that did something, But I looked at the link, and I was like scrolling the link, and I'm like, pretty badass, man. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, look at all these, like that. It was page after page after page. And it's like, yeah, all of that actually. And it's not just me, but I am the central hub of all of this thing that makes it all go together and work, So I would continue. If I won Powerball, I would still do it. I get to meet and talk with, and it's not like I don't talk about like surface bullshit. Like I get to talk to a guy, maybe like Nikki Sixx, the, guitarist for Motley Crue and Rock Hall of Fame, and say, we're in a conversation and say, dude, did you ever think about, did you ever have times in your life when you thought about killing yourself? Right? Like, when can you say that? You can't say that at a Christmas party,
right?
Right. And then they're like, fuck yeah, like I want to come clean, and then oh yeah, there was a period where such and such, or I did this, or I did that. Like you have the deepest of conversations. I get to ask people sometimes, like, what do you think the meaning of life is? Like, what's your purpose here? It's heavy shit that you, in this context of this, you're allowed to ask a question like that.
I like that. It's a safe space. That's what it is. That is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in the clearest of glass houses, so we put our stones to other uses than throwing them at each other. Generally, there are gatekeepers, but we try not to. You can only deal with what's around you, right? That's all you can do. So
why did you guys get started? I'm curious. If I can, I don't mean to turn the
no, that's right.
But you guys get started.
Well, what I shared with you, I'm August 1st, 2016, and I guess what accelerated mine, or I guess what got mine started, jail. I like to think of it that cold floor in jail is something that I'll never forget. When I was taking my socks off and had to put the sandals on, and my feet had to touch the floor for a second. That's kind of something that was a cultural shock to me. But
can I probe you for one part of that experience? Is it okay? I know that it's painful.
Yeah, please.
But I asked this in our interview, and I remember I've got a freaky memory for conversations from years ago. And there was one thing that I remember asking you, and you were in jail during a pretty significant sporting event.
Yeah. So the Broncos released me in September of 2015, right before the season started. And for like 2.5 months, I was working out, maybe not work. I don't know what I wanted to do, trying out for teams, and landed with the Patriots. But we got knocked out. Our season ended because the Broncos beat us in the AFC Championship game. So the team that just released me sent us home. I come back to Wisconsin. I get in trouble. I land in jail. And I watched the Broncos win the Super Bowl in jail.
Yeah. God!
Yeah.
The team that you were playing for just a few months before, and you're in jail, and you're watching them on TV from jail.
Yeah, and the inmates around me were saying, that should be you up there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, gosh.
I apologize for like cutting a wound open. It's so like it's like so freaking powerful, man. And then the thing is that you didn't just fall apart. How many NFL players, dude? I'm trying to think of one. There's a cornerback for Brandon Browner. Okay, I love Brandon Browner. He was a cornerback. He was a cornerback for the Seahawks. He's phenomenal. He was opposite of Richard Sherman and 12, 13 around there. And the dude, I think, is in the freaking pokey right now. He had massive addiction. I'm not disparaging. I'm just saying, like, the contrast between what you have done. Okay, that guy broke into his girlfriend. It was assault, all this kind of stuff, and is in jail, man. And you, from the pinnacle of working your ass off your entire life to watch that pivotal moment in jail, and then what you did afterward is amazing, man. You're in real estate, you're in business, you've got a podcast, you've got kids. I see your pictures of your next little running back dude. You've taken this tragedy and you're a perfect example of what we do at Recovery Today. Tragedy to triumph, man.
Appreciate that, man. I really, really do. And I have to give credit to RJ as well. He's been very, very helpful in my process. And RJ, I'll let you share, obviously, how you got started.
Was your question about our sobriety starting or starting this podcast?
I wanted to know, not your sobriety starting, but what made you think let's do a podcast, or let's do this, we should do.
That's RJ.
That actually started with me. I had been talking to him for a long time. We were golfing. A couple summers ago, we golfed quite a bit. I want to say we went like 6 or 7 times that summer. And, for us, that was quite a lot. And we were just talking about our own sobrieties and, our triggers and life stresses and stuff. And I'm like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I stopped listening to music. I can't deal with the ads. And it's funny because podcasts have ads all the time, but you can skip them. And I'm like, I love listening to podcasts, and like Chris Hardwick specifically, when he starts talking about his sobriety during his podcast, that really spoke to me, especially when I first started out being.
You gotta get him, man. I forgot. I stopped watching The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta have that guy.
Yeah, he is. He's really outspoken about it, and But I really loved what he created. And then him being vulnerable all the time. And I'm like, there's not, and then I listen to other podcasts and they're getting drunk on their podcasts or talking about drinking. And I'm like, I get it. But at the same time, like, that's not for everybody. Like, that is a little bit of a trigger for me, but at the same time, like, it could be even more triggering for somebody else. So, I was like, we should start a podcast and just talk about how, like I said before, our sobriety doesn't affect everything around us, but everything around us affects our sobriety and what we've kind of done. So it was like right before the pandemic, actually, we were starting this last year in February, and then the pandemic obviously started. Right. We're starting to do this, and then we've kind of grown since then. So we were just audio for the first 10 months-ish, and then we moved to some video and stuff. And it's kind of grown out, but it's turned into therapy for both Mons and I, like what you've talked about. We've been very vulnerable talking about, our past, what we struggle with today. And it's helped me so much. Like, I never called myself an alcoholic until we started the podcast. I never, really talked about my self-esteem issues with other people very often. And then I've talked about it with other people. And, it's just, seeing like Carrie in chat, seeing Yo-Yo in chat, seeing the same people come back and just talk to us. It is powerful. It is very powerful.
On chat right now, chatting. I haven't even looked. I put it on full screen.
Oh, well, not in Discord, but on Twitch.
On Twitch, people watching us live. And that was Mons' idea to go to the video. So like we've both kind of taken things and done different stuff, but it has been powerful sharing our own stories and talking to people like you who've done so much for the recovery community, and talking with, what we were like we had Carrie on to tell her story, and, just like Gretchen last week telling her story. Like it's just the inspiration that you get from other people telling the stories is unmatched.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Rob also, he's married to my sister. So
I've been around for 11 years.
So that's how we know each other. And so I have a pretty good support system around me.
Yeah, you do.
But we are a little bit over time right now, man. I mean, that's all I got for you, man.
I told you we'd only get to a few questions, bro.
Yeah.
Well, when your answers are that good, it's okay to get to a few questions.
Yeah. We'll let you.
And I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm being serious.
My philosophy is, why answer in 10 words when you could spend 200 words answering? So,
we respect it for sure. But Rob, this is awesome for sure, man. Thank you so much for your time.
I give a plug to my mag.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, please.
Probably we're going to, so let me not do that. But Recovery Today magazine, sounds like it's all commercial, but I will say Recovery Today magazine is the #1 addiction, sobriety, recovery magazine. It's a modern multimedia digital magazine. It's cool as hell, and it's completely free. And you can go and get it at www.recoverytodaymagazine.com. I hate to do the plug, but I was starting to think, he's not going to plug me. So sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
No, we let everybody that we bring on who has a podcast or who's doing something along the lines of
Recovery Today podcast. That's new.
Yep. And what we'll do is we'll put it when we post it. We'll put it in the chat as well of our posts, and it'll be on iTunes as well too. Of where to find
our description. Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Love that, man.
Yeah, we got you. But that's all I got, man.
I know. I loved it.
Thank you for coming on and being so open and being yourself, because you are a lot of fun, and thank you for.
Maybe we'll take a trip.
It's really, honestly, authentically, it's really my honor. It's really my privilege, and it's really my pleasure. Honestly, it's really a pleasure to do it. I really did it. Monty was like, yeah, we normally do these at like 8 a.m. Central. I'm like, dude, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning in Seattle. I'm not, I would have, but I prefer to do it at a reasonable time. Yeah.
And that we get that. So that's why we're like, we're adaptable. So for the most part, it works around my kids is kind of how we do this right now. Cause I got a almost 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're maniacs. So
did I get
try to do the double team as much as we can for parents. So
I understand. Terrific. Well, thank you so much. All right, guys.
All right. Let's try to be better tomorrow than we were today. Thank you, Rob, for joining us. Look up Recovery Today magazine. Find Monts on Twitter at MonteBall28. Find us Untapped Keg everywhere, all podcast services and on YouTube. And let's have a good week. Thank you, everybody.
Let's do it. Thank you.